everyone, I wanted to film a video today to talk to you about some of the options I've been looking at for 7th grade language arts, specifically for literature. So I had kind of narrowed it down to 6 options that I decided to look into a little bit deeper, and so those are the 6 that I'm going to talk about today. I was mostly looking for literature. However, I wasn't opposed to if it had vocabulary or writing or grammar and things like that. I do have something that I want to use for grammar, so that wasn't like a big deal to me. But anyway, I'm going to show you kind of what the 6 that I kind of narrowed it down to look deeper into. The first was exploring the world through story. Second is my perspectives. Third is Oak Meadow. Fourth was core knowledge. Fifth was lightning literature, the storm level. And then last was lit house learning level 3 novel studies. So one thing I tried to keep in mind when looking at these is what the standards are for 7th grade. Now, I don't follow the standards like 100%, but I do like to kind of keep an eye on them. And, you know, in general, have my daughter learn, have her learning meet the standards. So I tried to keep this in mind when I was looking at different curriculum. So the first one, exploring the world through story, I was drawn to this one because it uses the writing revolution methods in it, and we've been doing the writing revolution, so I was definitely drawn to it for that. It is published by Stone Soup Press, and it starts at kindergarten and goes through 8th grade at this point. It's all PDF, so it wasn't something that I could buy and preview and, you know, maybe take back if I wasn't sure if it didn't work out or whatever. They do have a Facebook group, which I joined to get a little bit more information, and they do have some samples on their website. So this was the sample for level H, which is grade 7. The genre is classical epics, and the writing focus is 4-paragraph essay. It includes memory work, narration, that kind of thing. And this was kind of a sample lesson here where they would read, says what they would read here. And then their checklist, this is written to the student, read the study notes, read and annotate these pages, look up new vocabulary words and add them to your personal vocabulary list, complete the writing assignment, and then do the memory work for the day. There's study notes, there's a writing assignment. There's a diagram here. Talks about the action in the story. Ultimately, this one I decided against. I know for sure that we're not going to do this one for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think my daughter would be super excited if I told her her whole literature for all of next year was going to be the Iliad and this other title that I don't think I can pronounce. I don't think that that would be very interesting to her, and I do want her to be interested in what we're doing. And I also feel like if this was a program, maybe if I was starting it from way back here in grade 2, where they started with folk tales, fables, trickster tales, wonder tales, and then moved into all of these other ones, the progression would make sense, and it might be a better fit. But once I got a little more into it, I just didn't think it would be a good fit for my daughter for next year. So that one is off my list for sure. So we are not going to do this one. I think that it looks really cool. It's just not going to work for us. So the next one is my perspectives. Now this is a public school curriculum, and why do I have it if I haven't decided yet? Well, let me tell you, this is very expensive. You can get it through Rainbow Resource, but I want to say it's like close to $200, and it comes with a lot of online components. Spending almost $200 makes me a little nervous, not knowing if it's going to work for us. and I wasn't sure if I really would need all the online components. So I went on to eBay and I found the teacher guide for, I think, $8, and that I think included shipping. And I found the student book for like $12. So for $20, I can have my hands on them. And that's really what I need to make a decision about something, is I really need to be able to get a closer look at it. So if we don't end up using this either for my daughter or down the road for my son, I know that I can make my $20 back reselling this. So this allowed me to kind of have my hands on it. Now, I think that if I were to do this, that I could do it without the online components. I don't think I would purchase it new from Rainbow Resource. I think that I could make these work. There are sometimes videos linked and things like that, but I think like sometimes I could find the video that they show that they're going to link, so I could just do that myself. Other times that they have, I noticed like videos to explain a certain grammar concept. Well, if that was really necessary, I could find a video to link for that. The nice thing about this is that you're not committed to a novel, because this uses much shorter selections from novels. So that's kind of nice. I do really like how this ties everything together. So let me show you in the student workbook here a little bit. So each unit has kind of a topic. There's a discussion question. This one happens to be generations. What are some examples of things that one generation can learn from another? And then it's divided into whole class learning, small group learning, and independent learning. It has a section where the students set goals for themselves at the beginning of the unit. Here we're going to be working on a nonfiction narrative. These are some of the vocabulary words, and so they predict the meaning here. Here's a selection they're going to read. They're going to work on this vocabulary word network. They're going to write a summary. There's a lot of writing tied into this, which I really liked. They're finding text evidence. And there's another reading selection. This one is a bit longer. There's a comprehension check. Here we're analyzing the text. There's the grammar part here. So there's a lot to this. Here's another reading selection. I believe we're all still in the same unit, comprehension check. I'm just worried that it might be too much of a jump from where we are in language arts to this. This feels much more high school to me. And so that's my only hang up on this. I think that it's great. I think it covers a lot. I'm just not sure about implementing it, how well I would be able to do that. So I'm not sure. The unit is quite lengthy. It's a lot of similar activities though, from reading selection to reading selection. So there's a lot that I like about this. My only, I guess, concern with it is that it might be too much at this point in time. So that's really where I am on this. And now we're just now to the end of Unit 1. So Unit 1 is very long, would last quite a while. Could we do bits and pieces of this? I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it more to see if it needs to be used, all together or not. But this is kind of what the teacher's manual looks like. And I think they make this for, well, I know they make it for grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. I'm not sure if this goes into high school or not, but so this is another option. I have not decided yes or no on that one yet. So that is a maybe. I don't know. What should I do for maybe? I don't know. We'll just do a heart. That's a maybe. That has potential. It's not a very good heart, but anyway. All right, my next was Oak Meadow. I've been drawn to Oak Meadow for years. I love the idea of it. I love that it teaches to the student. And I thought, I've heard good and bad about their history, so I wasn't really interested in them for history, but I thought language arts might be a good way to try them out. I like the books that are included for the 7th grade year. It's got Catherine Called Birdie, A Single Shard, Anne Frank, Brown Girl Dreaming, Code Talker, Esperanza Rising, Out of the Dust, Shelf Life. I can't see what that one is. Counting on Something. And my daughter's already read a couple of these, so I have to take that into consideration too. But I love the look of this. I will tell you that this is coming off my list mostly because of the price. Not knowing that it would work for us. It's pretty pricey to just kind of test out, but you can see here, this sample is available on their website. They give a really good chunk of a sample, which is nice. It tells you all of the materials you would need, how it's set up, and then you can kind of get into the unit. I like that this is really set up, written to the student, that they can be independent with it. I like that there's some interesting assignments for them to do. I could take or leave the grammar. I don't really need that part necessarily. But I mean, it's a nice addition, but I like the different assignments, like describe the relationship between these two characters. And then here they get it to choose to draw a picture of a scene, or they're writing some dialogue between some characters. So I think that having that choice of assignments is kind of cool, and that would definitely speak to my daughter. So I really there's a lot that I like about this. However, it's definitely going to come off the list just because of the price at this point. I've looked used too, and even trying to purchase them used, still really pricey. So my next option that I was looking at was Core Knowledge. We've used a few Core Knowledge literature units in the past. I like some of the titles. I like that there's some fiction titles for sure in here. We have a couple of them, which is also nice. This Hello Universe is one of them. Code Talkers is another one, or Code Talker is another one. This one I borrowed from the library. The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. I've liked the novel studies or literature units that we've done from Core Knowledge before. So that's a bonus. The negatives for me are a couple of things. One, these are very teacher intensive in my experience. And so that's a little bit of a turnoff. I'm trying to move more towards independence with teacher support for my 7th grader next year. Also, some of the selections are, abridged versions. And I'm not a fan. I'd rather they just read the whole thing. I'm not a huge fan of abridgments. So those are kind of my negatives on Core Knowledge, but it's still for me in the running. Because it's mostly free, I would just have to get the books. So that one is still a possibility. All right, the next one is Lightning Literature Storm Level. And if you followed me for a while, you might say, didn't you quit Lightning Literature in another year? Yes, we did. But I was intrigued by the level Storm. This is written for grades 6 through 8. It essentially is for 7th grade. It's the level that comes after 6th grade. And this is new, I want to say within the last year. Now, this was going to be cut off my list pretty early because I just couldn't find enough samples of the inside. There weren't used copies available because it's still so new. There weren't any YouTube videos on it because it's still so new. And I was looking on Rainbow Resource, and they do show a couple of pages in their preview, you know, when you're looking at the when you're looking to purchase it. But it wasn't enough. I couldn't see enough. But I liked the books that were part of it. Prairie Lotus, I already have. I loved that book, and I want my daughter to read it anyway. This Rainy Day Reader is something they put together with like open source, not open source, but public domain poetry. There's a couple of nonfiction selections, and then I think 4 novels. So I like all of the selections. I think my daughter would be interested in them. So that this has that going for it. I went to the Hewitt Learning website, and they had much more available as far as a sample. So they have 2 weeks of both the teacher's manual available for you to look at, and 2 weeks of the student. So there's week 8 and week 21. So you can see a sample from The Hobbit, and you can see a sample from Elijah of Buxton. And the things that didn't work with Lightning Lit in, I think 5th grade is when we kind of stopped it partway through the year, is that the way the grammar was presented wasn't really working for my daughter. There wasn't enough repetition or work with the concept that they learned. And then to try to go back and find where it was to refresh your memory if it came up again was not the easiest of tasks. So why am I considering it this time? Oh, and the writing. The writing in 5th grade was just, there was no real guidance. It was kind of, here's a topic and write on it. And I do think that some changes have been made to this that make it a little bit more user-friendly. So it's still set up the same. The student has their checklist. They have their questions related to the reading. Here we have a lesson on characters. They give you a summary of the lesson. And then here is a little writing assignment. This one is about characters. You're going to choose one of the 2 characters, provide a description, an action, a sentence of dialogue, and another character's opinion of that character to show us something about them. So they give you an example of what that might look like. They give you the form to fill it out on. And that's day 1. Day 2, you have some more questions. You have your lesson on character development through conflict. There's your summary, and then here's your writing assignment for that particular day. More reading, a lesson, summary of the lesson. Here's the assignment based on the lesson. Next day, reading questions, lesson, here it's on points of view, summary, and let me go back. Oops. So in your student checklist, here are the chapters you're reading and the comprehension questions, and then you're going to complete these lessons, which I showed you at character development, etc. And then you're also going to begin writing an essay. So I guess these aren't necessarily writing assignments, they're lesson activities that go with the lesson. So let's look at the teacher manual for week 8. It's got the comprehension questions and answers. And then here we're talking about the composition that the student's going to start. They're going to write a personal essay about a journey they took or a time they felt out of place, and they relate it to the text here. So they're just brainstorming on day 1 and picking the topic for their essay. Again, it's got the answers. And then for the writing, they're going to choose what to include from their brainstorming. It says if they have any trouble with this, they can review the lessons, and then they will have outlined their paper on day 2. And day 3, let's see, composition, they're going to work on their rough draft. And then day 4, they're going to complete their rough draft, and then the next week they're going to rewrite it. There is a section here on extending the lesson. So that's a sample of week 8. I like it. I think that my daughter would better be able to handle the writing. By then, we were doing a bit more with writing this year than we've done in previous years. So I think that she would be able to handle that. Let's look at week 21. Again, we have the checklist. And it's set up the exact same way. We have our reading questions. I do like that there's a bit more. The last level we did, there were only like 3 questions. And I didn't find them to be all that compelling. Here we do have more of a grammar lesson on hyphens and dashes. I also think possibly if we were to do this, I would purchase the PDF and I could leave out stuff that I don't think she needs to do. If I didn't want her to do, you know, the lesson on hyphens and dashes, she wouldn't need to. But anyway, that's what this looks like, parentheses and brackets. So it looks like it alternates between kind of more literary lessons and more grammar, like mechanics lessons. So I do kind of like that as well. Oh, but here we have a lesson on setting. And this looks like the writing assignment. So at any rate, this gives you much more of a view into the program. I think the older version of like the 7th grade Lightning Literature was more, maybe not as accessible and interesting reading selections as this one is. So I definitely like that. And even though we have quit Lightning Literature in the past, this one for me still has potential. So we will give that one a heart. That's like the perfect heart. All right, and then my last possibility was Lit House Learning Novel Studies. Again, because it would incorporate writing and novel studies, I thought, hey, maybe this would be a good route to go. The Lit House Learning Novel Studies uses the Writing Revolution, and they also, I believe in their level 3, use this Everything You Need to Ace English Language Arts in One Big Fat Notebook. This appears to be referenced a lot, which we already have it, so that would be good. The problem is, though, that there's only 3 level 3 novel studies right now. And while they do have plans to release more, and by the time we were going to do this, there might be enough for me to make a full year out of, there's not enough available for me right now to really plan and assess whether it's going to cover everything I would want it to cover. Like, are there going to be any nonfiction selections? You know, I don't know. So while I thought that this had potential for several reasons, I don't think that that one is going to work. So this is where we sit right now in trying to pick a literature component for 7th grade language arts. We're between My Perspectives, Core Knowledge, and Lightning Literature Storm. I am worried this one might be too much. So I don't know. That may have an arrow through the heart. That one may not work. Which may mean we're coming down between these two. If I had to pick right now, today, I would probably pick this. But I'm not sure. I'm still making up my mind. I'm trying to take my time. So if you have any suggestions, please feel free to leave them down below. Hopefully this was helpful to you if you are looking for language arts for your 7th grader for next year. We are planning to use Fix It Grammar again next year. We used that this year and we also used it last year. She will be done with spelling this year, so I'm not going to worry about that. And We are currently doing the Writing Revolution, and she's also using IEW Structure and Style. We just started that within the last month or so. I think she's on week 5. So we can continue that into next year if need be as well. And then if I need to add in vocabulary, I already have a thought for that. So that's kind of where my mind is on this. But again, if you have questions, leave them down below. If you have suggestions, leave them down below. And I will talk to you in the comments.